This is Frankie Lynch, Saturn Girl. Like this video and subscribe to my channel. Comment below because I want to know what you think and it helps me out with the algorithm. But anyway, I'm still obviously recovering. I still have 2 black eyes. I had nasal surgery and it's starting to feel better. But I had to jump back on regardless of how good I do or do not look. Because there's a lot of shit to talk about. We've got too much to do here, okay? So anyway, why am I doing a video now? Well, because there's another fun fucking little transit happening in just a few days on August the 9th. Venus in Leo is currently retrograde. She's currently backtracking through Leo, meaning that she's making another square to Uranus. You may remember that we had a square to Uranus in early July. And now we're approaching Uranus again. So, what does this mean for you, for me, for us, for who the hell ever? I don't know. Let's talk. Let's find out. So, well, number one, what's Venus? Venus is my mama. She's also Our Lady of Beauty, attraction, love, relationships, harmony, creativity, women and feminine things. When Venus is in Leo, she represents her desires. Venus is desire. And in Leo, she's very clear and upfront about what she wants. Uranus, on the other hand, what is he? Well, he's the unexpected, the unusual, precarity, right? Unusual, right? Remember Beetlejuice? Winona Ryder says, the strange and unusual. I am the strange and unusual. You know, that kind of nonsense. Surprises, not always very pleasant ones, though. We also think of resistance, rebels, weird things, right? Uranus in Taurus can bring precarity of resources. So just think about the water situation, for example, in the western United States. Some segments or sections of the Rio Grande have gone dry. That's scary. But this is also very characteristic of Uranus and Taurus. Something to be aware of with all this. Now, what about squares? Squares are hard aspects, aren't they? We talk about these a lot, but just as a quick refresher, squares are in the nature of Mars. The 2 malefic or hard aspects are squares and oppositions. These are difficult, but they make shit happen. We need effort. We need friction. And we need conflict for things to be real on the physical plane, don't we? And the thing about squares being in the nature of Mars is they're more like quick collisions, like conflicts and breaks and cuts and decided things like that, right? Whereas oppositions are longer, slower, more protracted conflicts. Now, when these 2 meet together here in a square, there's certain things that I think about. So one of the phrases I wrote down for this, along with some examples, is perilous pleasure. So Venus is the planet of pleasure, and Uranus can be the planet of peril, if you will. Let me explain. So pleasure with Venus, yes, but the unexpected twists and turns and difficulties and challenges of Uranus, we're always facing another potential pitfall around the corner. So needing to be careful with how you party a little bit. For example, June 2018, the famous Hollywood actor Vince Vaughn was arrested for drunk driving and resisting arrest just outside of LA. Very typical of this sort of transit. It's also interesting to note that back in 2002, when Nick Nolte, for those of you who know Nick Nolte, another famous, or at least when I was younger, famous Hollywood actor, right? He was in 48 Hours and another 48 Hours with Eddie Murphy. He was famously arrested for drunk driving too. And there's that famous mugshot of him with his hair all crazy. You know, he looks like the Cynthia doll from Rugrats. You know, for those of you who know. Anyway, if you don't get it, whatever. But this happened not during the exact transit, but when Venus was making a sign-based square to Uranus. Another funny one was Mel Gibson in 2006. This was July of 2006. when Venus was approaching a trine. It wasn't a square, it was a trine, but still interesting. See, even the trines, the sextiles, the easy or harmonious aspects can have very difficult expressions when it comes to planets like Uranus or Pluto or Saturn or Mars even. Yeah. So anyway, Mel Gibson, 2006, was famously arrested for drunk driving. But the scandalous part about it, too, was the awful, evil, anti-Semitic rant he went on for God knows how long during his arrest. So that was another infamous thing that came out. For those of you who remember, I mean, this was a long time ago, but there were a lot of radio DJs and stuff who were taking up his, some of his things and like chopping them up and prank calling people with some of the outrageous stuff that he said. So anyway, the soundboard things for those of you. Anyway, I'm dating myself, aren't I? Now, another phrase that I wrote down here was frauds and fines, right? And in this context, you could think of Venus in Uranus here as exposing inauthenticity. Authenticity, a word applied to both Venus and Uranus, really. And some examples of this, once again, June 2018. Elizabeth Holmes, some of you may or may not be familiar with her. She was considered the youngest female billionaire ever, and the founder of a biotech startup known as Theranos. I think I'm saying that correctly. And she was charged with fraud when her company couldn't deliver promises about blood tests that they were producing. And that was the whole point of the company, was creating these non-invasive blood tests that would still be incredibly accurate, but it was a bunch of made-up nonsense. So that was exposed, right? And then May 2010, Andrew Wakefield, renowned for pushing lots of conspiracy theories linking the measles, mumps, rubella vaccine to autism, which actually has never been proven, and there have been studies debunking this. However, he used to assert this, and this, among other misconduct, resulted in him being struck from the UK Medical Register. So, very important, serious misconduct. And then once again, June of 2018, Volkswagen, the German car company, was fined 1 billion euros for conspiring with another car company, Daimler, to suppress low emissions technology. I mean, that's crazy. And Venus is cleanliness, isn't she? She doesn't like a lot of smog. She doesn't like a lot of smoke. She doesn't like dirty air. So, of course, she's not going to like when Volkswagen tries to keep this down, Anyway, another phrase I wrote, wardrobe malfunctions. Who doesn't love wardrobe malfunctions except for the person not having them, right? And this is so interesting because we think of fashion as Venusian, right? But then there's the unexpected side, which is the Uranian side. And Uranus is like, oh, you look really good in that top. Be ashamed if someone, tore that strap, pulled this back, ripped it forward, or made it drop. So some interesting, and not all of these are squares, but it's just interesting to me that I did notice a pattern with Uranus-Venus aspects in general and these wardrobe malfunction incidents. Now, some quick examples. Well, first, the original one in 2004, when we first coined the term wardrobe malfunction. This was Janet Jackson and Justin Timberlake at the Super Bowl in 2004. And they were doing a performance, and one of Janet Jackson's little, booby coverings or whatever is started to flap off, and Justin Timberlake's like, oh, anyway. But this happened when Venus was leaving a conjunction to Uranus. So it's just so interesting how this happens. And then Nicki Minaj, this was an interesting one. 2014, the VMAs, Video Music Awards, MTV, her top almost fell completely off. If you go back and watch the video, she's holding it like this the whole time because one of the straps or something broke and she was just holding on for your dear life, like trying to keep, like, oh my gosh, I can only imagine. And, I mean, I'd probably just be like, whatever, but I'm awful like that. So, and this is when Venus was trine Uranus. Trine Uranus. And then, ooh, Miley Cyrus. Oh my gosh, this is another big one too. Her New Year's Eve performance of last year, going into this year. Her top, she was wearing like this silvery, it was really cute, like this silvery, shimmery little thing, but there's no way that thing could stay on, like, in just a gentle breeze, let alone, a big old event like this. So it blew off, of course, and she ran off stage, and then she quickly threw on a blazer that someone else had in order to finish her performance. And this is when Venus was, in fact, departing from a square to Uranus. And then this is another funny one too. Paris Hilton, her 33rd birthday party. This was February of 2014. Remember, she's an Aquarius. And she was renowned at the time, or maybe more infamous at the time, for not wearing panties, not wearing underwear. And she proceeded to flash lots of photographers. Flashed photography, right? I mean, they usually say no flashed photography, but anyway, this is when Venus was leaving, once again, leaving a square to Uranus. So, I don't know, I just thought this is such a funny pattern to recognize. I'm like wardrobe malfunctions, that sounds like a very Uranus-Venus thing. But what does this mean for you in particular? So, I mean, this could go either way. Uranus is a wild card, isn't he? So, I mean, this depends on what houses Venus rules for you, of course. And then what houses they're transiting for you. So, but some things I could think about in your personal life are chance meetings and new people. So these could be new romantic interests or female people in your life, or women in your life anyway, because it's Venus. They could be friendships. They could be new people that you meet, or could be a new romantic relationship. This stuff does happen. And I know everyone's saying, well, Venus is retrograde. But new relationships do happen during Venus retrograde. And no, it doesn't always mean they're bad and all this nonsense. So, what else? Sudden disagreements or schisms with people in your life, particularly friends, because this is Venus. And Venus is relationships and how we relate to people. So people will be volatile in general. But Venus is our close personal relationship. So we'll see fights with friends being more likely. Now, we talked about precarity and resources. So this does bring ups and downs with money, with, I don't know, other stuff that we use or need or whatever. I'm trying to think of resources, but, it's not like you're collecting timber like it's Minecraft or something. Or maybe you are, I don't know. A lot of times we have to either do more with less, or we get some sort of surprise gift or windfall or some sort of financial help. Also, unconventional beauty. So getting bizarre creative inspiration. If you're engaged in any sort of creative pursuits or crafts or anything like that, this could be a wonderful time to get an unusual or original spark with your work, or something you've been working on. A lot of times we'll be laboring over a project or a piece of art or something, and it's just missing that unique personal touch, something that's uniquely us. And what's ironic about that unique thing is we can never really take credit for it because it's not really ours anyway. It just comes through us, right? Do you ever have that sense where you produce something and you're like, wow, this is gorgeous. I can't really take credit for it because it feels like it just more came through me, than from me. If that makes sense to you. If it doesn't, don't worry. That's okay. Being weird and quirky, being yourself, letting your freak flag fly. Freak flag fly. Freak flag flag. Flag flag flag. Fly, 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 fly. You know what I'm saying? Freak flag fly. Anyway. Um, trying a new look. Just, be yourself. A lot of times we sort of, we self-censor, or, we mute ourselves, or we try not to be too flashy or showy because we don't want to draw attention. But it's like, you know what? Screw it. Venus is in Leo. Draw attention. Fuck it. Anyway, I don't want to cuss too much during this. Well, what else here? Being adventurous, right? Being adventurous. We have Venus and Uranus, so perhaps sexually adventurous. Trying things you never tried before. Telling your partner what you want. Being upfront and honest. Like, yo, I'm getting bored, homie. Like, I just read this in Cosmo and I want you to try it. I don't know. I don't even know if any of you read magazines anymore. But you know what I'm saying? Maybe it's just trying new types of cuisine, food, Taurus, Uranus here. And Venus also, pleasure and senses and food and stuff too, right? Trying new pleasurable things in general, whether it's sex or food or whatever, things that engross the senses. Pleasurable music, something, but it's Uranus, so maybe it's metal, or something just different or unusual, right? But this is a time to go out of your comfort zone, to go out on a limb, to tell people how you feel, right? To share your crush with a crush. Right? I mean, tell them that you have a crush on them. Flirt with a new person. I mean, albeit safely, right? I love Rent. She goes like, I want to put on a tight skirt and flirt with a stranger. And I mean, yeah. Flirt and everything like that, but do it responsibly. I mean, don't go out by yourself. I mean, I try not to. At least I don't go out by myself. I try and have people around me because you never know. Like it's crazy. So anyway, then I just wrote my notes here. I wrote, be safe and responsible and don't go out alone. So, like I was already talking about, but then it's my notes right here. So yes, of course, I'm going to be preachy here for a second. Don't go out alone. Always watch your beverages. Don't leave things unattended. People do have malefic intentions oftentimes. It doesn't help us to be constantly paranoid or looking out for those intentions, but it does help us to be aware. And it does help us to be a little cautious and a little wise, especially when it comes to a Uranian-Venusian transit where people are just likely darting off in all directions. So anyway, I hope this is useful. Thank you for watching all the way till the end. Like and subscribe, please. I see so many of you people all the time watching, but not liking and not subscribing. So do me a favor and do it, because I'm going to get upset and I'm going to haunt your dreams, okay? And then also share my stuff, because other people need to see, okay? And I do wonderful readings. All my information is in the description below if you want to contact me. And I love you. You're beautiful. And I want you to have a wonderful whatever it is you're having.